Welcome to Recently on Reddit, a tiny Black Panther production. Here we explore some eye-catching posts from several popular subreddits. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few tales that people have told about events in their lives. Did you know that pumpkin spice has no pumpkin in it? It's the spices typically used to season pumpkin. That's today's totally useless and unrelated fact. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing. It helps the channel so much. And with that out of the way, let's get to those stories. From r/TalesFromTheFrontDesk, posted by Sweet Lady Propane 108. I don't think you understand. The phone rings and it's a man asking for 2 more rooms. He says he's trying to book online, but the price is too high. I ask check-in and check-out dates. Me. Okay, all we have tomorrow night is 2-bedroom suites. The rate is $291 before taxes. Man. Okay, that's not going to work. I'm not spending that much for one night. Could you confirm you see my reservation for tomorrow? He gives me his name. Man, it should be 3 rooms. I needed 5 rooms, but if you don't have it, then I'm going to have to cancel. And I'm going to need you to guarantee to me that there will be no late fee for any of this. I look at his reservation and see a mishmash of 3 different third-party booking names. Me. Okay, since you booked these through a third party, you will have to contact them to cancel your reservations. Man, this is so inconvenient. I needed 5 rooms and I could only get 3. You're going to have to promise me that I won't have to pay for any late fees. Me. Sir, our cancellation is 48 hours. Man, I don't think you understand. This is for last-minute business and I need 5 rooms. And because you don't have enough rooms for me, I need to cancel. I had to make them all individually, and I am not paying your rate. Me. Sir, I don't have the authority of capability to waive the late fee in this circumstance. If you'd like to speak to a manager about it, they will be in tomorrow morning. Man, you're going to leave a note for them. This is last minute, and you don't have what I need, so you need to waive the fee. Me. What I can do is transfer you to their voicemail. Man. That is fine, but you can leave a note too. Me. Sure thing. One moment. I transferred him and didn't leave a note. You agree to cancellation by making and booking the reservation. You could have called the hotel before booking to confirm if we had your precious 5 rooms. Don't make this my problem. Clown. I can't understand why you would go through 5 different places to book 5 different rooms. And if it looked like booking at that hotel was going to be a problem, why wouldn't you just look somewhere else? From r/ProRevenge, posted by 327Nova. My cousin stole loads of jewelry, so I stole his inheritance. I do not speak lawyer, so please forgive me. Backstory. 25 years ago, my aunt passed away when I was a baby, leaving 2 cousins who were both in their early 20s alone to fend for themselves. My grandparents, who were very wealthy, put a clause in their will that grandkids will receive half of their share of inheritance if a parent passes away before the children reach age 30, and the other half when my grandparents eventually passed. Both my cousins received a very sizable inheritance, coupled with the money they got from selling my aunt's house. The younger of the 2 paid off her college loans and was able to buy property. She still lives on the same plot of land. The older sibling blew all of his money straight out of a book of the Bible within 6 years, and he was back to living in a condo working as a police officer. Everyone in our family knew he had a substance issue, so he was barely making ends meet with his officer's salary and buying copious amounts of drugs. The next 4 years, my cousin went to rehab 3 times, sponsored by my grandparents. He sobered up after getting his girlfriend, now wife, pregnant. Absolutely wretched woman. She saw my grandparents as payday and essentially baby-trapped my cousin thinking it was her ticket. Within 7 years, they had 3 kids, so she is locked in tight. She's a nurse with 3 kids around. They always need a little boost. Guess who they would always ask? You got it, my grandparents. Being the kind spirits they are, they always lended a hand. My father, mother, sister, and I got sick of it very quickly. My grandmother unfortunately passed away when I was 17, leaving my grandpa as the last remaining. I was undoubtedly definitely my grandfather's favorite among the grandkids, which left a real sore spot in the mouth of my cousin and his wife. I had 2 more years at home before college, so I lived with my grandpa to keep him company and help take care of him. My cousin and his wife hated this, so much so that whenever they came to visit and I was not home, they would send their three gremlins into my room to destroy it. My room had double doors, so it couldn't be locked. This was the start. The longer I lived there, the more they would mess with me. My cousin even went as far as to place one of those little mechanical noisemakers in the cabinet in my room, the ones that play sounds at random intervals to make you think you're insane. Thankfully, my German Shepherd would always hear, and after a week or so, she finally found it. They did this to distance me and deter me from taking care of my grandpa so they could swoop in and be the heroes. This continued until one of the kids found my gun. By this time, I was 18 and in possession of a firearm. I use quotations because my grandfather has guns, but cannot aim and shoot them anymore due to his arthritis and nerve degeneration. So when I moved in, he placed all the weapons in my hands should the need of self-defense arise. But should he see them out for any reason other than cleaning, there would be hell to raise. Being very well trained with guns and having a sense of pride in defending my home, I took this responsibility very seriously. I always kept a handgun in a locked container in my nightstand with the key on a high shelf out of reach from the gremlins. One fateful day, I'm out getting my grandfather food when I come home, and my older cousin, his wife, and my grandfather are staring at the gun on the table. It was the gun that I keep in the lockbox. It was loaded and had a bullet chambered. I always keep a magazine in the lockbox, but I never loaded it into the gun. The lockbox was nowhere to be seen. My cousin claimed one of the children found the gun and was playing with it. I was 100% certain that he either found the key or broke the lockbox open to get to it and load it, as a 6-year-old would not be able to reach the key that I could barely grab, figure out what it was to, load my gun, and chamber it. I tried my best to explain what my cousin had said was BS, and that I never keep my firearms loaded in the house. But my cousin, who is a cop, scolded me on gun safety and threatened to have me arrested if I didn't leave and hadn't arrested me yet because we're family. I was asked to collect my belongings and go back to my parents. My cousin had won, or so he had thought. The next day I apologized to Grandpa and explained to him that there was no way one of the kids could have gotten the key. He agreed with me and he apologized, but he thought it was best I move out until things cool down. But once they do, I would be welcome back home. Our relationship was a little fractured due to disinformation provided by my cousin. A month later, my grandfather died of a heart attack at 86. I was devastated. I was just beginning to get back into rhythm with him and rebuilding the trust that was somewhat shattered. To this day, I am still unsure of what kind of man he saw me as due to my cousin. Immediately, my cousin and his wife began sucking up to my dad. As they had sealed payday with Grandpa, it was time to move on to the uncle. This persisted for a month or two. I couldn't stand for it. Then the time came for the will. My grandfather's lawyer read out the will to me, my father, mother, and sister in our home. Our two cousins would be briefed individually on their share of the estate, per my grandparents' requests. Then the miracle line in the will comes to fruition. If anyone attempts to claim any part of the estate that is not assigned to them, they forfeit the assets they are supposed to receive and will be divided equally among the remaining family members. This was basically their way of saying, if you try to claim more than you're given, you get nothing. My father is supposed to receive every piece of physical property aside from 2 or 3 items he set aside for me from my grandparents, as he is the only remaining child. The revenge. I hatched my plan. I called my cousin and told him all of Grandma's jewelry was to be donated to a charity auction. Grandma's collection of gems and medals was extensive, to say the least, so a charity event wouldn't care if a few pieces didn't make it, right? It was a lure of gargantuan proportions that my greedy bastard of a cousin couldn't resist. He bit right onto it and headed over to my grandparents' house ASAP, determined to snatch up as much as he could. A handful would send his kids to college. Regardless of what I said, The jewelry was never going to go to him anyway, so his actions were purely his own since none of it was destined to be his. Coincidentally, Dad was on his way with the lawyer to grandparents' house to overlook everything. Formality stuff. According to Dad's testimony, my cousin had 3 shoe boxes worth of Grandma and Grandpa's jewelry piled on the kitchen table ready for loading into his car. My dad and the lawyer stood in the kitchen wondering why it was all there when my cousin walks in from my grandparents' bedroom with a fourth and final shoebox. The jig was up, and he put 2 and 2 together, and I set him up, which was true. But there was no penalty against me exploiting my cousin's greed, so he would fluff himself over. It's worth noting that the 18 years from my aunt's death and my grandparents' death, their wealth had increased several times over. So my cousin felt cheated and expected to receive just as much as my sister and I, despite receiving half of his already and blowing it. Throughout this whole ordeal, his younger sister, my other cousin, has not had a problem with anything at all and is still weeping over Grandpa's death like the rest of us. However, just like that, my cousin lost enough money in the course of 30 minutes that made him contemplate his own sanity over greed. My cousin's bee of a wife apparently filed for divorce a few weeks later. We haven't heard from him in nearly 6 years, as he is all but disgraced now. You can call this a fairy tale ending, and on this particular part of the story, it somewhat is. There was a massive lawsuit by an unknown family member involving the IRS and FBI later. But honestly, I would rather have my grandparents. Leave comments if you want, but the other part of the story is not really a revenge story. Meanwhile, I am kind of curious about the rest of the story, but my God, that cousin. I don't understand how in families, like everybody can be awesome, and there's one person who doesn't seem to mesh with the rest of the family. I don't know, I don't understand it. So you may be wondering about that random fact in the beginning. It occurs to us here at Tiny Black Panther Productions that everyone can use a little random knowledge, and we like to share ours. So if you have any random tidbits you'd like to share with the world, please drop them in the comments below. I'll read out some of those facts in future episodes at random. Please just be sure they're accurate. Thank you for joining us on Recently on Reddit. Please comment, like, and subscribe. All comments will be read and considered, as it's my goal to get better at entertaining you. Again, thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.